Welcome to the Make Your Brain Happy podcast, hosted by Veronique Cardon, MS, the podcast where you'll learn how to live your life to its fullest potential. This is for anyone who's interested in the science of the brain or wants to seize the power of positive thinking, enhanced mental performance, and a healthy lifestyle.
Hi, this is the Make Your Brain Happy podcast with Veronique Cardon. And this is episode number 1, which is very important. A happy brain makes you happier, of course, but also helps you lead a successful life. And in this podcast, we are exploring all the mysteries and the science behind what's going back in our brain, but also, how can that help us live fuller lives, happier lives, healthier lives. So it's at the same time like a nerdy type of show, but also we are going to provide you with, I hope, a lot of very good tips and tricks to be at your fullest potential. So today my guest is Michel Granberg. She is a meditation coach, an excellent one. We've done some shows together before. And she's also the owner and the founder of My Fit Coach. So she has multiple talents, as you will hear later. And we are exploring strategies to cope with the anxiety, with the stress that we are living right now, confined in our houses and homes and tiny apartments, because this is the time of COVID now. And I think we're entering our 3rd week here now in New Jersey. We are both based in Princeton. And we're doing this over Zoom. So welcome, Michel. Thank you so much. And before we start, just tell us a little bit about how you're helping your clients, how you're leading your life right now.
Hey, Veronique. Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be on your show, and it certainly is well needed, so we can provide some assistance for folks out there in the world virtually. So I am as you said, I'm a mindset coach and hypnotherapist and a meditation teacher. So I've been helping people cope and thrive for over 20 years using holistic and alternative healing methods. Mm-hmm. And I studied with Dr. John Kabat-Zinn, who is probably the most well-known across the world teacher of mindfulness. He is the founder of the MBSR program, which is a mindfulness-based stress reduction program, which is evidence-based in terms of helping people physically, mentally, and emotionally.
Yeah. I think his book must be somewhere here. Yes. So, so how are you doing personally right now?
Well, it's a good thing that I'm trying to practice what I preach and walk the walk, because this is certainly the time to do that, to use every single tool we have in our arsenal. For folks out there who have been on the journey of self-improvement and self-help their whole lives, this is it. This is the time where we have to take everything we've ever learned and really put it into practice. Otherwise, it's useless. Otherwise, it's just more stuff that fills our head. And so right now, number one, for me, setting my mindset every single day is probably the most important thing. I think that's the most important thing for everything. It's extremely important to be positive, to remain positive. It makes the difference between struggling and thriving. It really is that.
So how do you start your day, like in the morning? Do you do something special?
I do try to do something every day, a little something every day, quick and simple. One would be to, before I even get out of bed, to try to notice what my thoughts are and try to do some self-talk even before I get out of bed. Like just try to say something like, I'm going to make this day the best possible day that I can. And I'm grateful for this and this and this, and this is a blessing in my life. And then if I can create some time also for some meditation or some type of meditative check-in time, it's going to be really important as well. And to do that regularly throughout the day, to stop and check in and to do healthy self-care as well.
Yeah, I found that what helps me in the morning is to do a mini meditation, like to get grounded into, it's going to be a great day. And I will always learn and do something different today. But what helps me is, and you're going to see it's very action oriented, but like I decide what are 3 or 4 things I want to accomplish during that day. and that keeps me on an agenda and on a track. So it allows me not to derail too much into like slumping in the armchair and like starting to think about what's going to happen. What is the future going to bring us? It's all bleak and doom. And in New Jersey, we have a very high rate of infection with COVID. Like we're number 2 in the US. So, and it's a small and overcrowded state, but I feel like I'm blessed so far. So what kind of practice? Okay, meditation. Not everybody is a meditator, or some people feel like they don't have the time. But I always say meditation is not just staying 2 hours immobile. What are some models or things that you could do, like to reground yourself during the day?
Yeah, we don't want the word meditation to scare people or to seem too
Yes.
far off or
Yes.
too pie in the sky, or that
Yeah.
don't want them to the misconceptions that
Yes.
it doesn't have to be spiritual, and you don't have to
Yeah.
be a yoga practitioner or a guru
Yes.
to practice meditation. So we do want to ground it in something a lot more practical and useful in that way.
Yes.
And we want people to know it's less about the technique. There are tons of techniques and they all work, but meditation in general is like a reset. It's a reset button, right? When we come out of our natural state is to be relaxed. That's really more our natural state. But we fluctuate throughout the day to varying degrees into fight or flight and back. And we need to consciously bring ourselves back to activating the parasympathetic and quieting the sympathetic nervous system and create homeostasis, which is that resting state. Like when you see animals throughout the day, they'll go high activity and then they'll stop and rest. We don't necessarily do that. So meditation, of course, is a way to swing us back to that. So something as simple as learning diaphragmatic breathing, because most of the time we're breathing very shallow and very quick. Just teaching ourselves and being mindful of diaphragmatic breathing, which is basically breathing in through the nose and the belly puffs out. In through the nose, not sucking in the belly, but the belly puffs out.
So you want to make sure that the air is going to your entire lungs, right?
Yes. Filling the lungs completely. Those are the key words: long, slow, deep, and full. If people can just remember those 4 keywords and then cultivate that breath, long, slow, deep, and full.
Slow, deep.
Long, slow, deep, and full breaths.
Long, slow, deep is LSD.
LSD. Remember it that way. We've come up with an acronym, but I don't know. That's kind of a good one. And then if you add to that, mindfulness, which is the mindset to diaphragmatic breathing, the art and practice of paying attention to the present moment as it unfolds without judgment. So mindful breathing.
Yeah, and I think sometime, and I've seen this with some of my nutrition clients now who are requiring a lot of support when it comes to stress eating or emotional eating, because those are tough times. But I always say that we have all those tools, like you explained, because sometimes we go for eating because you said you are in the fight and flight situation. So your cortisol level, which is the stress hormone, is going up. It raises your glucose level and it triggers a craving. So I said, next time you feel like you want to go and get some cookies in the pantry, start breathing deeply. So do you have to do it for like a couple of minutes, or how long do you have to do it just to start to feel like you're getting better?
I think that you experience the immediate benefits within just a couple of breaths, within seconds. If you really sit and do this and pay attention to what's happening, you'll notice the shift immediately. So it's not really about the length of time, it is about the quality of the time. If you sit and practice this, one thing you can do is place one hand on the chest and one hand on the navel, and kind of feel the little bit of pressure of your hands helps you to be in your body, and then do your diaphragmatic breathing and feel the rise and fall.
Mhm. Are there other techniques you can use? And I know you will say yes, so it's a loaded question.
There's many techniques. I would add, and keeping it simple, I would add to the diaphragmatic breathing is a mantra.
Mm-hmm.
And that doesn't have to be something in Sanskrit. It doesn't have to be long and fancy. It could just be the word peace on the inhalation and calm on the exhalation. So simple. So as you breathe in, you silently say the word peace slowly, a little bit like a sing song, and then calm on the exhalation.
Mm.
And that often is just the thing to be able to hit that reset button. Another
Yeah.
thing you can do is change your physiology, so you can hold a smile for a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That changes,
Yeah,
again,
it's
that
true. It makes you
it,
happy.
it releases that's right, it reduces the stress,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
your body doesn't know the difference. Your body's like, well, there's reason to smile.
Yes.
And then
So.
on top of that, I'm also a laughter therapist.
Mm-hmm.
So laughter is so important and so healthy. So I teach people laughter exercises.
Is there one you can share today?
Well, I think the most simple one is to remember that the three universal laughter sounds are ha ha, he, and ho ho. So in
Uh-huh.
laughter therapy, we simulate laughter to stimulate laughter. And again, the body doesn't know the difference. So when I do it in large groups, I say people just do it after me. Ah, ha, 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 ha. So try that. Ah, ha, 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 ha. And then he, and then ho, 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 ho.
Yeah, it's true. It's fun.
You feel it already. Your energy goes up, up, up.
Yeah, you're right.
So we do
Okay.
that for extended periods.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. Or cloning around with your family or watching funny movies, right?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
absolutely. Watch funny movies.
Yeah. You also mentioned one day in oral meetings, another way to calm down was to move from the fight and flight to which is the limbic part of your brain, to the prefrontal cortex, which is more about executive decisions and logic, so that you take the stress away in a way from your brain. And you had a good exercise. Can you share it with us? It was about looking at objects, remember?
Okay, yes, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, because most stress obviously originates in the mind, in our
Yes.
thoughts,
Yeah.
taking
Yes.
us away from the present moment. So a great quick anxiety reducer is to name 5 to 10 things that are in the space with you. You literally stop and do that, and you say lamp, mirror, chair, shoe, TV, right? And it sounds so simple, but it'll snap you right back to the present moment. I've also
Yeah.
seen some people actually wear a rubber band around them
Yes.
and
Yes.
gently, not
Yeah.
oh, don't
Gently
hurt
point.
yourself.
Yeah. I know another version of this, looking at what surrounds you, which is you choose, like the painting in front of me, which is a painting
Mm,
that was done by a deceased painter, Priscilla Algava, and start to try to imagine. I'm looking at it right now. Uh, how was it made? Where was it made? What's the story behind it? What kind
mm,
of, like the whole description of the object, and can take you time.
I love
So,
that.
yes, it's a good one. And you can become very creative. Now, so we spoke about ways to ground us back into ourselves and learn to calm down, right? Like to go from the flight and flight to a more relaxed um, way of being. But also, the fact is that we are worried. We have fear. We have anxiety because every day, there's more bad. There's good news too, but there's more bad news, and more people are filing for unemployment, blah blah blah. Like the whole cohort of this big recession that's looming, people losing their jobs and so forth, or revenues. So there's this woman called Tara Brach, and she wrote a book called Radical Compassion, and she uses the RAIN, another acronym, RAIN methodology, because she said when you feel fear or anxiety or like an uncomfortable emotion, you have to learn to face it. So RAIN is for recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture. So what are your words of wisdom about this?
Yeah, I love that Tara has simplified it into an acronym like that, because it really is important because our emotions and our feelings are always telling us something. They're a
Yes.
language of our inner self and our
Yes.
subconscious. So there's a time and a place for learning to process and explore those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So I love what she's saying, and recognize what's happening, because that immediately puts you into the self-observation mode. Here's the feeling and here's me. I'm now a little bit more separate and detached from it. And then how she also talks about allowing for just sort of being with it, right? Without trying to fix it or change it. So many people try to immediately fix it, change it, push it away. But pausing, at least for a little short moment, to not judge it, but to surrender to it and accept it, and then investigate it. Then, and once you've accepted it, then you can still explore and investigate it with some curiosity, not with criticism or analysis, but with some curiosity. And then I love her final step in that circle of nurturing it. Take it as if it's a child, as if it's a part of you that needs nurturing. Apply self-compassion and self-love. That's really when we need it. Be your own best friend and your own ally.
Mm-hmm.
That's what allows a space for growth. That it won't change if if you're holding tight to it and saying no, no, no. You have
So
to sort of give it breathing room.
isn't that a way that, I mean, isn't this a way for her to explain that if we don't do this, it's going to stay with us
Right.
unresolved, whereas if we face it and we even describe it, it's easier to let it go, even if it
Yes.
comes back. Is this the gist of what she's
Yes,
suggesting?
it's we say what we resist persists. So instead
Okay.
of doing that, we do the opposite, which is sort of lean into it. Lean into it. It's actually a doorway that you want to go through, and you'll get to the other side of it. Because you're right, emotions and thoughts and worries are like things. They're
Mm-hmm.
almost like commodities a little bit. If you don't pay attention to them and stuff them down, they're not really going anywhere. They're staying here, stuck inside of you. So it's a way of freeing those by exploring them in that way, and then releasing them.
So, how can you help us decatastrophize the future? I mean, is there a way? Another person was talking about the 4 M's. Meditation was there,
Mhm.
mastery of our skills, like leaning into our skills to feel good about ourselves, meaningful interactions with people, and moving and exercising. So, is there a way you can help us to decatastrophize the future?
Absolutely. I mean, I think you have to rein that in. I mean, one thing is to recognize when your thoughts are racing out of control in that particular way. Catastrophizing is assuming the worst and really spinning things to such a
Yeah.
degree that you create anxiety about the current moment or about the future. So part of it is just asking yourself powerful questions like, is this true? Is this real? Is there another way I can think about this? You know,
Or
and
also, there could be other scenarios. Have I looked at other
right.
scenarios?
What else could be true? Is there another way of interpreting this? Is there another way of perceiving that? And questioning our thoughts and then trying to reframe them as well. And I think it goes back to Tara's techniques and mindfulness techniques of when we're so lost in those thoughts to bring ourselves back to the present moment without judgment.
Hmm. One thing that is really difficult for all of us now is, and some of us like me are lucky, I have my wonderful husband at home, but a lot of us are alone at home. And it's not that we are alone, we have family, we have kids, we have, friends, but we are all isolated. And we are stricter and stricter about this isolation. So the feeling of touch, the human warmth, because we like to be with other humans, is disappearing. How can we cope with this?
Well, there's no complete replacement for the actual human touch, but because we do need that to thrive. Babies need that especially. But in the meantime, we have to reach out certainly more to one another than ever before and let people know, especially people who are physically alone in their homes, that they're not alone by communicating with them by voice or mailing them something or writing them a note. This is a really good time to really put into practice, random acts of kindness and go a little bit out of our way. to think about ourselves, of course, but then to even be less selfish and to think about others, because what comes around goes around, to sort of to pay it forward. And thank goodness we do have the technology. Imagine how isolated we would be if we didn't have the technology, so there's double-edged sword. Technology can divide us and separate us and keep us from connecting. But in this respect, technology is bringing us closer together. We can connect. It's all about intention. We can have an intimate moment, a meaningful moment still.
It's interesting because my mother, who lives in Belgium, is 83. And it took my sister and I quite an effort to get her to get an iPhone, and then to be able to do FaceTime. And I'm speaking with her every day, and she's doing well. But she said to me today, Veronique, I have to say that I'm so glad you forced me to have FaceTime, because, she's hyper protected also because of her age. So she's even lonelier. She's not even daring to go out. So
So keep an eye on those people who are around you, who are of a certain generation, for whom it's not as easy or as comfortable or as accessible. I have an elderly neighbor, and when I finally saw her outside, the first thing I did was ask her, does she need anything? Is she okay? So that's one thing we can do, with our neighbors. And she's like, could you just pick up a gallon of milk for me when the next time you're out? But little things like that, that's what she needs.
Yes. How are you conducting your business? Because like Reiki, it's touching. Yoga, you may do it 6 feet apart, but how are you dealing with your business right now?
Making adjustments just like everybody else. You'd be surprised. You would think that it would be very difficult to make the transition, but it seems like myself and pretty much everyone I know has almost overnight, knowing that they had to. It was essential. Either I have a business or I have no business. So a lot of what I do is talking, so that can be done. But Reiki, which is a form of hands-on energy healing, it's not exactly the same, but I can do it what we call distant healing. We say that energy travels. So as long as that person is receptive, I can still send them this energy, this positive energy, and help to work with their energy field even at a distance. And then all the other things, meditation and hypnotherapy and visualization and affirmation work and mindfulness, that can also be conveyed at a distance as well.
And what about the parents at home with kids? Is there a way to find an advice for what to do with your kids?
It seems like parents definitely have to play a lot of different roles now that the kids are home. They have to be teacher, and they have to I know they probably feel like they have to police their children, but they don't really. And it's a lot of togetherness time. So very important, number one, is certainly set some boundaries and some limits, and don't be afraid to set some rules. Maybe get the kids to help you set the rules. Hey kids, what rules can we come up with together for being together? Let's write them down and hang them on the refrigerator. And with kids, it's really great to just make a game out of all the challenges, make a game out of it, make it rewarding, maybe use a timer for different things. Or teach kids meditation or breathing. Sit on the floor with them. Let's sit on the floor, touch the floor, or do a little stretching. Learn how to breathe or use your imagination. Kids love to use their imagination anyway. Let's go on an imagination journey together.
That's a great idea.
Honey, you describe, where do you want to go? What's your favorite place? Describe it to all of us, and we'll stay with you, and we'll follow what you're saying, and we'll take turns to do that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. In fact, like capture the imagination of your children.
Engage them. Yeah, engage all their senses and their imagination.
Okay. Well, you know what? It was wonderful to have you on this podcast, and I think you shared a lot of very good information and tips to reground yourself in your body through meditation, breathing. I will never forget the LSD acronym, which is can you repeat? Which was
long, slow, and deep. When it comes to your breathing, LSD, long breaths, slow breaths, deep breaths.
And the and the RAIN acronym, which is that you recognize, allow, investigate, and nurture
Right.
even your most unsettling or negative emotions that we have right now. So thank you so much, Michelle. It was a pleasure to have you. This was the Make Your Brain Happy podcast. And I promise you that if you do those exercises, you're going to make your brain happy as well. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you, Veronique.
Thank you for joining us for the Make Your Brain Happy podcast. This episode was recorded by Veronique Cardon and produced by HG Media. If you enjoy our podcast, please share it with your friends. You can find our podcast on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and wherever you listen to podcasts.